over to a sneak peek of Naviate Geotech. So we want to make clear, Naviate Geotech is not a released product. So do not make any purchasing decisions on this demo. And as we said, this is beta. Naviate Geotech is an add-on to Civil 3D, or a coming add-on, to import, present, and analyze geotechnical data from, for instance, or basically, Field Manager. Naviate Geotech is planned to be released this spring. And about Field Manager. So as I mentioned, we import data, especially geotechnical data, from Field Manager, which is developed by NGI Digital, which is the Norwegian Geotechnical Institute's Digital Innovation Department. Very short word or name. Yeah. Field Manager is an open and cloud-based platform for geotechnical ground survey data. It works right now for Swedish and Norwegian standards, but more are planned to come. I do guess, because that's on, of course, NGI side. Field Manager supports planning, collection, processing, storage, quality assurance, and availability of your valuable geotechnical data. This is just a screenshot from Field Manager where we have a demo set of some Swedish, in this case, geotechnical data. And this is what we are now able to export from them and import into Naviate and Civil 3D. And let's see how this is designed to work. So our new Naviate Geotech ribbon import from FM or from Field Manager borehole data. We do export in a zip file. This zip file will include both the data and some actually DXF files for the graphs that we see here. So it's the data of these geotechnical data, and it's the borehole section views. So I have some options. I'm going to be very quick. I'm going to show a couple of different workflows as a teaser. So I'm just going to accept to import all the data in that one. It imports the points. It's now processing blocks for my section views. And you see a surface popping up. This depends on the template that was designed to use the Swedish existing ground and Bedrock surface. You will notice that we now then, of course, handle the scaling as we normally do in Civil. And we do have a lot of setups to present the data in different ways. So the Swedish and Norwegian presentations in this case are a bit different. This is set for the Swedish one. We can notice that we have what we call a location. That's where we have done a geotechnical investigation. And this one is then added a property set with information from Field Manager, which location, which methods, and some other data. For instance, depth in rock, depth in soil, and other data that comes from the geotechnical database. Also, our Swedish method for presenting methods is that we present them inside. So the location is the circle. The methods are the different objects beneath here. So I have a method. This is a rock sounding and the data for that one. And another method is this one, which is a CPT. And then depending on if any of these had a stop code, we will create a stop code method as well, defining if it hit the rock, if it went into the rock, or how it performed. The interesting thing with these data are that they work with our existing Naviate functionalities. If I turn on my property data functionality, I will be able to search for data in here. So for instance, going to look at my methods, I'm going to drag that one to expand it. And I'll say, I want to see where I have this rock sounding method search. And it's going to show that I have this method in 4 locations in this data. So I can do a lot of things here, and I can create tables for different stuff, but I'm not going to dive into that right now. I am going to change the scale to 2000. We're going to look at showing the borehole diagrams. I'm starting this command here, selecting one, and it turns on the diagrams from that one. This is a label, so I can drag it and move it along. If I want to turn on more labels, I will, for instance, turn on all location labels. It's going to process the full drawing and set these up. There we go. If I want to change what we see when it comes to colors and so, I just go in here. I have the field manager diagrams, and for instance, I can turn off the grid if I don't want to see that one, or I can change colors of stuff in there, all on logical layers. We mentioned we have rock here as well. If we have a rock in the system, we're going to find the bedrock elevation immediately, or allow you to create it immediately. We have other methods as well, and one of the methods to create stratum is working with this tool here. And I'm going to show you most of them, especially the section diagram. And this is to be able to select the diagram, select the elevation, accept that one, move on to next diagram, and keep on now creating my rock points. You see it appears berg, it says, the Swedish for rock. So now you see that surface building. The more rock points I create, the more the surface grows. So I'm just going to pick a few more. So we are analyzing the graph and finding the elevation that you pick on in that graph and create the rock point at that level. So I'm just going to find my notes here so I make sure to do what I planned. Okay, yeah, I'm going to move on to create a profile view. So I'm going to go here. And creating profile views in Civil is quite a few steps. You need to create an alignment, then you create surface profiles, then you create a profile view, then you project objects to that profile view. Now we made one ring to rule them all, so I'm picking the points I want to create the alignment through. It then asks me to select the alignment style and naming, label set, the profile view naming and band set, and I can create the profile or the surface profiles down here. Notice that we have surface name, profile style, label set. And remember that Caroline talked about the style by surface. This one supports the style by surface. It's going to pick them up. But it also, if it doesn't find that setting, it's actually going to match the profile style with the surface name, or a style that includes the name. So notice that it's, notice that it's picking the correct one. I went a bit ahead. I'm going to show you more styles later on. But notice that it picked the rock style, Berg, for that one, and mark. It's just by naming. I am going to project my borehole points, but I don't have any solids. I'm not going to pick those. And I'm going to project those within a buffer width of 5 meters in this case. There, and I'm creating the profile view there, and I just accept the default settings for this one. Now we have projected those points on to this profile view. So 4 steps made into one, simplified in a lot of different ways. And also here, as you can see, we have now projected those points that I passed through 2018, as you see there. I can turn the diagrams on here as well, and you will see that I picked the elevation, in this case, a little bit too high. I can move this one around. I'm going to turn off the snapping there, so I can move it as well. I can also use the properties, and we got the wish from some reference users to be able to mirror that one. Notice that the sounding here is to the right. I want to mirror that one. So we actually created a mirrored as well, so we can see, and still the values are presented correctly. That was one of the things that people wanted to be able to do. We can also turn on all labels in the same profile view. So turn on all in this profile view, and we will turn them on. We will see that I picked the other points a little bit more accurate. Now, we might also want to be able to modify. Sometimes we don't believe really in what's been built here. We do not think that the rock surface is flat between here. So we added a way to create stratum within the profile view. Notice that when I create this, I have options to use code sets in Civil. The code sets are, maybe I should show that, you can predefine using these description key sets. So you can set up here codes that we can use. If you haven't used them, this is an interesting way when we work with points. So we can create different lists here of different codes to be able to create. So back to creating stratum, I'm going to pick the rock again. Notice that I have update surface with same name, so it's going to try to match it with the correct surface. So I'm saying I want to create points in this profile view. I'm going to create the Berg or bedrock points. I'm picking a station and an elevation and accepting 0 as an offset. And you notice that we modify that surface in here by picking. And as I have a station, I could actually, if you notice here, so let's see, you can see we turned off the station tracker. So I'm there, I'm picking the station and elevation there, and maybe I'm setting -5. I did it on the elevation. Well, it doesn't matter. So now I created, as you see, this point a little bit aside from the alignment, so you don't have to create it in the alignment. Works, of course, on any surfaces. Actually, doesn't have to be these Naviate built ones. Okay, that was workflow number 1. Did we have any questions, Caroline, regarding that?
We got one question about where the data comes from.
Yeah, so it's NGI Field Manager, and it is it is able to import GeoSuite data. We can say that the NGI Field Manager. I'm going to look at another workflow that now works on points from CSV. So I'm picking this one up here, points from CSV, and I will now use an ordinary coordinate file with multiple elevations. So apologies for the Swedish, but you see it's the name 1A, X and Y. These are the X and Y coordinates there. Then I have existing ground, clay, silt, sand, moraine, bedrock, and groundwater. So those are different elevations for each of these codes. So we will create for each point here, X and Y point, we will create these points. So let's see what happens when we do that. Picking that one, we have some settings in there actually to do some more interesting analysis. And let's do 2 windows. I think I'm going to minimize that one. Let's have a look at the imported points. This is how they look. We notice that there are multiple points in the same elevation. So this should be, if I select those, you will see that they are all in the same position there. One interesting thing that we have is edit borehole elevation. So I can pick any of these points, and we're going to find and present all the points in the exact same location. You can modify the elevations or so on about those. Moving on, notice that they are all green except the rock valley in the bottom. I'm going to create point groups for all of these, include that one. I can create surfaces immediately if I want to, but I don't want to. It's going to find a point style and label style with the same name. So if you predefined for different purposes, you will now see that those point groups were created. And if I look at my sand, we will see that it picked up my point style sand. If I would have had a label style for sand, it would have picked up that one as well. So we got the correct colors there. Move on to create surfaces. I could have done that in the previous command. I'm going to pick the same points. I can press enter to select all if I want to. And I will now allow it to create surfaces from my default surface. But what's going to happen is that it's going to set the style for each to have, let's look at Lera, for instance. So it's creating now that style. So this was created from the point style, basically. And in this one, we set it up to have the same triangle setup, color setup as the point had. So all we need to do is to set up the point style and the layers, and we're going to follow that one. And if I turn on conceptual, you will see that those layers or those surfaces were created. Let's just very quickly create some solids between each point here. I'm going to set up that I want you to find my existing ground mark points and find all points below. So I'm going to be quick now, which means that it finds all points that are exactly below that point or within the tolerance, and it does this for all my existing ground points. So if I now go to objects on off and maybe turn off my surfaces, so let's see, hide all, you will now see the different solids in here. show all, turning them back on. Okay, 2 more steps. I'm going to create a profile view. Let's see if I can get it to pick the first and last point there. I am now adding, so now I have a lot of surfaces. Notice that it matches the surface name and the profile style. If it exists, I know that that was all of the ones I have. I don't want to have any points in this one, but I want to project the solids. Let's pick the insertion point for the profile view. I know I should now change this one here to get better presentation. There we go. We have the solids projected in there with different colors and the different layers. And quite often in these cases, we want to hatch between the different layers here. So we created a command to do this as well. I'm going to pick my top and my bottom profile. I'm going to preview. You see the green appearing. Also here, we're matching the top one, matching. If I change this to the bottom name instead, and we're going to keep matching that one instead, I'm going to pick next, and then I only pick each of the subsequent layers. So I can continue adding my hatches like this. And at the end, or the bottom, we don't have anything to hatch against. So there we added a possibility to create bottom profile. I'm going to call it bottom. I'm going to pick that one, and I'm saying I want to have 60 as my bottom elevation. Okay, that profile was created there, and there we have the red rock layer. Quick, nice and easy. 1 minute overdue.
Yes, perfect timing.
Mm.
You got some good feedback in the questions panels as well. So it sounds like people are curious to use this, which is always good. How much can they use right now? What is available to them?
If you install 26.2, you can do some of the workflow, especially I did now, the last demo. We can import points from CSV, create point group surfaces, create solids. Don't remember really how far we got with, I think we create profile view, but
Create
not sure
profile
about
view
the
is
hatch.
there, but not the hatch one. The hatch is
That
yep.
is the case. Well, there is a demo data for the import field manager borehole data as well, but it's not that advanced at this one here. So yeah,
and of course you can find the latest release for Naviate on naviate.com, either if you log in, or it's actually available on my Symetri now as well for Naviate for Civil 3D, where you can find it under applications.
Yeah, and the questions we have here, if we want to have the sub layers instead on the top layers, yes, it depends on what you select. So you have settings for that. I was very quick now to make the time within the hour, and we also the question about visualizing boreholes with a curve. We don't support a curve, but we support that the points are within a tolerance beneath each other. So it's if you have points close enough below each other, it's going to find those. And use wheat data, yes, it can be imported into Field Manager. And if you are interested more in Naviate Geotech, if it's the Swedish or Norwegian system, you are welcome. If it's other standards, you're also welcome to come with questions and suggestions on other formats that you would like us to support, and we will look into that.